Once we have a higher time frame bias and we have our session zones on, we can now start to predict what we're actually looking for in terms of market movement and behavior. Now, for this example, it's London session. I'm on GJ for today, so this is the trade of the day that I'm recording this. So this is just before London opened. You have to be at the markets at least 10 minutes before London opened to make sure you've got all your zones, all your biases on, so you're ready to trade the session as soon as it opens. Just to quickly recap, the three zones I have on for this London session is the one we were currently at, which was this London high here from the 25th of October. It also became Asia low, so it was a very nice zone. The next zone down was this Asia zone down here, also from the 25th of October. And then we had a London session zone just above up here. You can see the last two times that London tapped into this zone, it did reject on both times. So now we have our zones on and we know our bias. By the way, our bias this time, higher time frame bias, was bullish. So we were only looking for buys. We can now start to think, what are we actually looking for the market to do? What do we want it to do? Now, only looking for buys. So we're only looking for a movement to the upside, no sells at all. So this is the point. It's quite actually simple, really, when all you've got to think about is what you're going to be trying to catch. So in this case, on GJ, you're either thinking we're going to reject this zone and then bounce off to the upside, or we're going to come down into the next zone, reject it, then bounce off to the upside. What we often like to see is a pullback in one direction. So a fake out move, just like in the new strategy. So a fake out move, we tap into a zone, then we get a big push in the opposite direction. So they are two possibilities. Or the other possibility is we get a break above this US zone, a retest of it, and then a push to the upside. So the only things you're ever looking for when buying is either a push to the upside like that, or so that means it's straight off a zone like today. When prices opened in the zone, it just bounces straight off up. Or we look for a pullback to a zone and then a big move off to the upside. We're always trying to catch the upside bit. Or the other thing we look for is a push up above a zone. So in this case, it's a London zone. So push up above the zone, a pullback to the zone, then a push off to the upside. Now, what I will say for this example right here, so for break and retest, if I just have this zone on, so say it was a break and retest of a zone like that, we have to have a 15-minute candle close above. You can't rely on a 5-minute close above. There has to be a 15-minute close above. So once we know a high time frame bias, we know our zones, all we then do is plan what are we looking for in the session. So now we know what we're looking for. We kind of got three ideas, either a pullback to this zone and buy, or a buy off of this zone, or a break and retest of that. So when you're buying, it's only ever going to be a pullback to a zone, buy, or a break and retest of a zone, buy. So it's a break above, a pullback, rejection, buy. These are the only things we look for when buying. Now, this is just before the session is about to open. We can throw it on the 5-minute and we can actually start to look for our entry. I'm actually going to make this London low just a bit tighter around there. And we can start to look for entries. So all we're looking for, like we said, pull down, rejection, bounce, rejection here, bounce, or break and retest and bounce. So as soon as we see one of our 5-minute buy candles that shows that we are rejecting this zone, we can instantly buy just like that. So let's have a look what the first 5-minute candle of the London session does that. So from that point, you can most definitely get to buying. Your stop's just below and your target probably just be in there. Different video on targets altogether, or you could just target further. I'm just going to throw it up there for now just to show you what happens. So from this point, price rejects it, and then it does end up pushing up like that and rejecting the zone a little bit. So we had this planned, and as soon as the session opened, you have to have it planned before the session opens in case like this, because if you're planning what's going to happen 10 minutes into the session, you would have missed this trade right here. So it has to be planned. So as soon as you see it happen, you can get involved. So we saw what was going to happen. We had the 5-minute rejection and we could easily just get in. So this is an example of how to buy in London by buying in this kind of format. It doesn't matter how big the pullback is. It can be small. It can be pretty much non-existent like this one. But as long as you're buying to the upside, all we look for is this 5-minute rejection and you can buy up like that. So that's an example of this format of buying. Now onto the break and retest example. Now I'm on Euro JPY now. This is just before London kicked off. Very bullish. The higher time frames were very bullish. We were only looking for buys. You can see the zones we had on. We had Asia high there. We had the previous day's London high on the 15-minute. We had that zone there. And we also would have had this zone down here. if it lets me draw it on, which was not only Asia low, but it was the previous day's London low as well. So we had 3 zones on. So now we're just planning, what are we looking for? So at this point, all we're looking for is either a pull down to there and then a push to the upside, but that's not likely because that would be a huge move to the downside before we did get the rejection. So what we're perfectly looking for is either a bounce, so we tap into this zone, then bounce up, or we're looking for a break above, a retest of Asia high, and then a push back off to the upside. So if I remove them two there, let's have a look at what happens. So what you do, you throw it on the 5 minute. This is just as London opened, and let's watch what the 5 minutes do. So a lot of action happens at the start of the London session, so you have to be there at the very start. So straight away, price does that, and it taps in to this zone right here. I'm not going to show that example because I've already shown an example of London buys in which price does that. I've already shown an example of that. So today's this trade's actually a different example. So what happens is that price breaks above. So now on the 15 minute, all I need is a close above this Asian high on the 15 minute. And that is exactly what we got. So at this point, now that the 15 minute has closed up there, you can now put it on the 5 minute. If I just skip it forward a couple, you can put it on the 5 minute. As soon as we see a pullback into this Asia high and a bullish candle on the 5 minute, we can buy. So let's have a look what happens. Price proceeds to push up a bit and then it comes down. Now price is in the zone. All we're looking for is a bullish candle or a 5 minute candle with a long lower wick. And let's have a look what happens. So this 5 minute candle here, very clear rejection, long lower wick and a bullish body. So from this point, you can most definitely get to buying. So just like that, put your stops just down there, and then your target, just whatever. That's for a different video. This is entries. So not only in this case was there buys, straight bounce down and then buys up, but that's not the example I'm showing. The example for this one is break and retest. So we had this Asia high zone right here. We've broken above. We've got 50 minute close above. We've now pulled back on the 5 minute. We've got a rejection candle. From this point, what happens? Well, price retests it a bit, and then it flies straight to the upside like that. So that's a break and retest example on a London session. So coming into the session, we had our plan. We were either looking push down buy or a push down buy from this zone or a break and retest buy to the upside. So it's just about planning the behavior that you want the market to do, you want your session to do, and then it's just about going on the 5 minute to capture it.